How's it going, everyone? After driving 16 hours straight in one day, we finally made it to Canyonlands National Park. We made it to the Needles District late last night, maybe at like 7 p.m. We had to set up camp. We did hygiene, we just went straight to sleep. We have a campsite here for 2 nights here at the Needles District. The Needles District is on the east side of the park, and it's probably like an hour or 2 drive away from Moab, or from the actual Island in the Sky district of the park. And now we're gonna go hike the Druid Arch and Chester Park Loop. These 2 hikes here are the most popular hikes in the Needles District. I'm hoping to get done early so we could visit the visitor center. It wasn't open yesterday when we arrived, and I'm hoping to just do like some sightseeing before we leave tomorrow. Also too, the weather is not cooperating with us at all. It was very cloudy yesterday, like probably for a whole drive through Texas, through New Mexico, through Colorado, and then into Utah. The weather was not pretty. I was checking on the weather app, and then it wasn't telling us that it was going to be raining at Canyonlands. But sure enough, this morning when we woke up, I woke up to rain. A rookie mistake by my end. I left both of my shoes outside for easy access for whenever I'm ready to get out my tent. I should have just saw the clouds and should have just thought, hey, maybe I should keep them inside my tent. But no, that was a rookie mistake. My Vans did get wet, but my Solomon, my actual hiking shoes, did not get wet, so I'm thankful for that. But yeah, we'll still hike in this little drizzle. Hopefully it doesn't pour down on us. Hopefully the sun comes out just a little bit. But quite honestly, I'm just hoping for really great weather for the rest of the trip, because it is late March or mid-March right now, and we're gonna be staying until late March. And then it seems like it's still gonna be very cloudy, very cold. I'm okay if the weather is cold, but I would like for the sun to come out. That way we can get some pretty nice pictures. As mentioned, we were hiking the Druid Arch and the Chester Park Loop. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do the Chester Park Loop because it started raining, as you'll see later. I didn't want to risk it because the Utah wilderness is known for flash floods. Hiking to Druid Arch alone is about 9.7 miles round trip. This trail is a bit long compared to other trails in the park, but it is my favorite. You will see why. Druid Arch is massive and has a very impressive shape compared to the other arches in the region. Not only that, but the Needles behind us looks cool too. We were going back to the trailhead, and this is where the weather took a turn for the worse. We still considered hiking Chester Park until we heard a nearby thunderstrike that changed our minds. Eventually, the storm passed once we finished the hike. We went to the visitor center right after. Then we saw a few roadside attractions and walked a few very short trails. I will put the names of the trails and the attractions on the bottom left corner of the screen. Good morning, everyone. It's day 3, and yesterday when we were doing the hike to Druid Arch, it started raining on us a lot, and it started sleeting too. The original plan was to do Chester Park, and it would be 14 miles total, but due to the rain, we just decided to just cut it short. There was like a lot of flooding, so we don't want to take that chance. We understand the dangers that come with hiking in canyons. So yesterday, right after our hike, we went to the visitor center and then we made it up before they closed. After the visitor center, we did like a few like very short hikes. Like we did 2 hikes that was only a third of a mile, and we did a third hike which was only like 2/3 of a mile. And when we got to our campsite, it was drizzling a little bit and then it started pouring down on us. So we had no choice but to just go inside our tent, seek shelter from the rain, and just wait it off. The rain stopped probably at midnight last night, and then we woke up and everything in our tent was wet. Not necessarily because the water got into our tent, most likely because of the condensation. Our jackets are wet, our sleeping bags are wet, our blankets are wet. We started driving to Moab, which was an hour and a half away. Utah State Route 211 was very scenic. We enjoyed driving through the red cliffs and the snow. We immediately got breakfast when we got to Moab. Then we went to Arches. Our first hike in the park was the Skyline Arch Trail, and it's no more than half a mile round trip. This arch is massive and it looks even bigger in person. Right after we hiked to Sand Dune Arch. It's a short arch with sand on the ground. We continued on the trail for 1 mile until we reached Broken Arch. I'm assuming they call it Broken Arch because a piece probably fell off. Next up is the Double Arch Trail. This is probably the second most popular arch in the park behind Delicate Arch. It was so massive, but it was also very crowded. Once we were done, we went right across the street to the Windows Loop Trail. This trail has 3 arches to see and is only 1.2 miles long. You'll see the north and south window arches and the turret arch. We headed to town right after, but stopped at a few lookout spots. Today is day 4 of our Utah road trip. Today we plan on going to Canyonlands National Park. This time we're going to the Island in the Sky District. We are actually camping here in Arches National Park in Devil's Garden Campground, by the way, which is like all the way down into the park. The weather has been so much better. Yesterday was partly cloudy here and there, and today the sky is just like, it's just clear. You can see the mountains from here. Yesterday you couldn't see the mountains. We're just very thankful that it's clear now because, just like I mentioned, the first day and 2 it was like raining, it was snowing, it was not very good for us. We did a few short hikes and then we also stopped at a few viewpoints, and then we ended off the day by getting dinner in Moab, and we also got a few showers in Moab as well. There's no showers here at our campsite and there were just like a few showers. I think the one closest to the park was like $12 for like 5 minutes. And there's another one that was like $8 for, it was $8 was unlimited time, but that one's closing, so we had to drive a little bit further downtown, or past the town, and we got showers that was $4 per person, and it was unlimited time, so it worked out just fine. That was also the first shower that we got in like 3 or 4 days, so I feel pretty good. Today we plan on knocking out a lot of things at the island in the Sky District. We're gonna hit a lot of short hikes, a lot of viewpoints, and we're even going to Dead Horse Point State Park. Hopefully we could finish very early so we could take another shower back in Moab, and we could come back here early so we could go to sleep, so we could potentially do Delicate Arch tomorrow during sunrise. Tomorrow is our last final day here in the Moab area, so we will see. Our first stop of the day is the Schaefer Canyon Overlook. As the name suggests, this spot overlooks the Schaefer Trail Road. This road is 31 miles in length and goes to Moab. 4x4s and high clearance vehicles are recommended on this road. I have an all-wheel drive, but I did not want to take that risk. Just down the road is a Mesa Arch Trail. This trail is little less than a mile and is also the busiest in the park. It's very popular for sunrise because photographers wake up early to get a picture of the sun in between the La Salle Mountains and the arch. It's amazing how this arch is at the rim of the canyon. Our next stop is another overlook, the Green River Overlook, and it's also right next to the Willow Flat Campground. I wish I would have booked a night here so I can watch the sunset and the sunrise from the spot. You can see the Green River and what I think is the Henry Mountains in the distance. I'm not too sure, but if you know, please correct me in the comments. But the snow-capped mountains made this view so much better. Moving on, right up the road, we did the Upheaval Dome Trail. This hike is 1.3 miles and it also has 2 viewpoints. Some people stop at the first viewpoint, but I have no regrets going to the second one. Upheaval Dome is a crater, and some scientists believe that the dome originated from a meteor hitting the Earth. Whatever the case is, the contrast of the dome and the surrounding area is cool. After the hike, we made a quick stop to the Orange Cliffs Overlook. This spot was just okay. My favorite is still the Green River Overlook. The final hike of the day was the Grand View Point Trail. It's almost 2 miles, but this trail is super easy. The trail almost follows the rim of the canyon, which provides excellent views throughout the hike. It was now time to leave Canyonlands. However, it wasn't the end of our day. Right after, we went to the neighboring Dead Horse Point State Park. This was a very small park, but the views were amazing. The gooseneck also reminds me of Horseshoe Bend in Arizona, which is also carved by the same river. When we were leaving the park, I got to see the Potash Pools from a distance. Jumping straight into day 5, we hiked to Delicate Arch for sunrise. We forced ourselves to get up even though it was very cold, but it was totally worth it. We were probably here for 2 hours just watching the arch and the sunrise. You'll recognize this arch from the Utah license plate. This is how iconic the arch is. Here's a few videos of the trail on the way back down to the car since I didn't take any going up because of how dark it was. Afterwards, we went to town to get breakfast and we stayed in Moab to hike. Yes, we were hiking outside of the 2 national parks. We were hiking to Corona Arch. The Corona Arch is on BLM land, which means you can take your dogs and fly drones, whereas in the national parks you cannot. This was one of my favorite hikes of the trip. The first arch on the trail is Bowtie Arch, and the second one right next to it is Corona Arch. This arch is so massive and very impressive. This is a must-do hike in the Moab area. We decided that this was the last hike of the day, so we just killed time in the area. First, we checked out some petroglyphs on the side of the road. Then we drove to a place called Castle Valley. Then drove some more along the Colorado River and backtracked past Moab to check out this place called Hole in the Rock. It's literally a home built into a rock, and yes, they do offer tours. They even have a memorial carving of FDR's face in the rock. Oh, and Tom Mater was there too. Before ending the day, we stopped on the side of the road to watch the sunset before heading to our campsite. Day 6 was here and it was time to leave Arches and Moab, and I wanted to do a quick hike before we left. Well, actually, at least a portion of it. This is the Devil's Garden Trail and it is almost 8 miles long, but I only had time for 3 miles. There are a few arches on the trail, but I was only able to see Landscape Arch, Pine Tree Arch, and Tunnel Arch. And we also stopped at the Courthouse Towers viewpoint. Everyone, so sorry. I didn't vlog at all for day 5 because we had such a busy day. So I'm just gonna give you the overview of day 5. So for day 5, we woke up at 5 a.m. in the morning and we hiked to Delicate Arch. We probably, yeah, like I said, we got up at 5 a.m. We got to Trailhead at probably like 5:40. We hiked for probably like an hour or so, and we sat maybe for like an hour or two. We were waiting for sunrise. The sun rose at like 7:28 a.m. But we were waiting for like for the sun to illuminate the arch, to illuminate Delicate Arch, but it didn't come to fruition because of just like the way like the mountains, not really the mountains, but just like the landscape is, and the way the arch is oriented towards. But nevertheless, it was still pretty like neat to just like sit there for like 2 hours just staring at Delicate Arch. The pictures really do not do Delicate Arch justice. It's really like, it's a big arch. It's not a huge arch, but it is a decent sized arch, and it's just so amazing how it's just like standing by itself. But yeah, so we hiked to Delicate Arch. Once we were done with the trail, we went to Moab to grab some breakfast. After we grabbed breakfast, we went to Corona Arch, which is a hiking trail outside of both national parks. It is actually on BLM land, so you're able to take your dogs with you. Unlike the national parks, you're able to fly drones. It was actually a really, really nice hike. The arch was very impressive. And also too, there was another arch like right beside it called Bowtie Arch. But yeah, I think the trail was one of the best of the trip so far. There was like a ladder that we had to climb. There were like chains that we had to climb as well. I would totally recommend it. Then after Corona Arch, we just did like a little bit of driving. We drove to Castle Valley, I believe is a little small town over there. The drive was pretty scenic. We drove along the Colorado River. Then we went east towards the valley, and then we just took a few pictures of the mountains and of the buttes. And then after Castle Valley, we kind of backtracked. We went past Moab and we stopped at this place called Hole in the Rock. It's like, they have like little shops here and there, and they also have like a tour that they do, because it's really a house, like someone's home inside the rock. I'm not too sure how much the tickets were, but we opted out not to take the tour. But we were just walking around and checking everything out. But yesterday was kind of like eventful, then it turned uneventful. After that, we basically just like relaxed. We went to the food trucks over here in Moab. We got some dinner, we took showers at the hostel, and then we made it back to our campsite. And then we had some downtime, so I decided to take pictures of the night sky. So the moon is like a half moon right now, but you can still see the stars pretty good because we're out here in the middle of nowhere. But the pictures turn out to be really good. I'll go ahead and show you guys right here. But yeah, of course we called it a night, and then now today is day 6. So for day 6, of course we woke up, we packed everything up. I did this trail called the Devil's Garden Trail. I didn't do the full thing. The Devil's Garden Trail is probably about 8 miles long. I just wanted to see Landscape Arch and the 2 other arches along the way, which I did. I think I hiked for maybe 3 miles, but I got 3 arches out of it, so it's pretty good. And then we drove through the main road and we stopped at the courthouse overlook, and now we're here at the visitor center. We're going to take off. We're going to head west. We're going to head towards Capitol Reef National Park, but we are also going to be stopping at a few state parks and a few BLM land and some lookouts. So yeah. Then after driving for 90 minutes, we arrived at our first Utah state park. This is Goblin Valley State Park. This park gets its name from the hoodoos that kind of resemble goblins. They are shaped like mushroom-shaped rock pinnacles. This is a result of gradual erosion of Entrada sandstone. It's just amazing how there are so many. It almost looks like an army of goblins. Alright, we made it to Goblin Valley State Park. Unfortunately, we don't have much time to spend over here. We still have to make it to Capitol Reef today, and we still have a few more stops along the way. But it's a very impressive park. I recommend probably like at least like one day if you have the time. I would definitely love to explore this park more extensively one day. But now I'm heading back to my car, and we're going to make our way to Hanksville. Our next stop is right along the way to Capitol Reef, and it was my favorite stop of the day. This is Moonscape Overlook. Just like Corona Arch, it's on BLM land, so I took advantage of that and I flew my drone. Enjoy! First thing we did at Capitol Reef was set up our tents, and then afterwards we went to Temple of the Sun and the Moon. We made it right after sunset, but really this felt like another planet. We drove on a dirt road for about 1 hour one way, and it was totally worth it. Good morning everyone, today is day 7 of our Utah road trip. As you can see, I'm a little bit more bundled up and warm this morning. That is because we are camping at Capitol Reef National Park. It's a little bit more colder than Arches and Canyonlands National Park. And also too, because we are in this little canyon So the sun has risen like 30 minutes ago, but the sun isn't like shining on us, so we're still pretty cold. But yeah, we're just waiting until 9 a.m. because that's when the Gifford House, I think that's what it's called, the Gifford House is open, and they do sell pies. Yesterday we came at like maybe like 3:30, and they were about to close, and then they were all sold out of pies, understandably so. So we're gonna go get some fresh pies. Hopefully they have some, and then we're gonna go to Cassidy Arch, which is like a 3-mile hike, and we're just gonna hit a few trails here and there for today. Unfortunately, the road to the trailhead was closed, so we had to hike to the trailhead, but I wasn't even complaining because this place is so beautiful. The hike itself is short, but it does take more time because of the steep elevation gain. The arch is massive, and if you're not paying attention, you can't even notice that you're walking on an arch. Since there was a lot of road closures because of the flooding, we just drove through the scenic road. Then we went to the nearest town, Torrey, Utah, to get some Mexican food. We were from South Texas, and honestly, we had no real expectations for the Mexican food here in Utah, but it was actually pretty good. There are a few viewpoints and very short hikes at the entrance of the park, so we just decided to check them out. The first one was Sunset Point, which was only a third of a mile. And the next one was Gooseneck's Overlook. To close out the day, we did another quick stop at the Fuda School House and the petroglyphs that can be found on the side of the road. Good morning. Today is day 8 of my Utah road trip. We are still camping at Capitol Reef National Park. Yesterday was our second day of camping here, and tonight will be our final night camping here at Capitol Reef. We don't really have much planned for today because Capitol Reef is such a small park and there's like 3 roads closed. So we'll probably just like kill some time, maybe go like on a hike or two. And that's pretty much it. Yesterday was kind of the same. We knocked out Cassidy Arch, which is like the most popular hike here in Capitol Reef, but the road was closed. The Grand Wash Road was closed, so it added extra 2 miles to the whole hike, but it was totally worth it. You know, the road wasn't too difficult to walk through. Wasn't very flooded, not as flooded as I thought it would be, but yeah, it was definitely you know, worth the hike, worth the extra miles. And so and then yesterday we went to town to Torrey, I hope I'm saying that right, Torrey, Utah. We had lunch. We went to a Mexican restaurant, I can't remember the name of it. There's like a few of them in town, but it's pretty good. We're from South Texas, so I didn't have much expectations, but they did have good reviews, and they did have a lot of reviews, so I took for what it's worth, and it was actually pretty good. So yeah, we don't have much planned for today. We're just gonna hit up the visitor center, you know, just get some Wi-Fi, check out, you know, just check our notifications, see if we are needed, and then we'll probably go to the Gifford House again to get some pie for breakfast, and then we'll just go with the flow. Okay, I'm going to be totally honest. We didn't do much on day 8. We drove around some and spent most of our time in town, but we left the next day. Our next stop was Bryce Canyon, but we did have a quick detour. The detour was Mystic Hot Springs. I didn't take too much videos here because I was relaxing in the hot springs, but we had so much fun here and it was worth the detour. But afterwards, we went to our 4th national park of the trip, Bryce Canyon. There was so much snow here because the average elevation here is around 8,000 feet, but the snow did add to the scenery and the experience. We got to the park later in the day, but we still had time left for one hike. We hiked into the canyon via the Navajo Loop Trail and the Queen's Garden Trail. Actually, Bryce Canyon isn't even a canyon. It's a natural amphitheater with hoodoos everywhere. But don't get me wrong, the park is very nice to look at from the top of the amphitheater, but to get the best experience from this park, you have to hike inside and into the amphitheater. We ended the day at Sunrise Point watching the sunset. Then the next day we attempted the Peekaboo Loop Trail. It had snowed a lot in the previous night, so the snow was fresh and it was high in some parts. Again, the white coated snow and the orange contrast of the hoodoos was very satisfying to look at. Unfortunately, we didn't hike that far and had to turn around early because I was not well equipped for hiking in the snow. I had trail runners on and the melting snow was freezing my feet, but it's okay, we enjoyed the views of the hoodoos from the top, and this was all we did for the rest of the day. And for the next day, we would be heading to our last national park of the trip. Day 11 is here, and now we made it to Zion National Park. We entered the park through the east entrance, and the drive made a very good first impression. The park was very busy, and we had trouble finding parking, so we only had time for 2 hikes. We did the gravel trail first, but I'll be totally honest, it wasn't the best trail. It's just a trail that connects the stops of 5 and 6 for the shuttle buses. But from stop 6, we hiked to the Emerald Pools Trail via the Kayenta Trail. We only made it to the upper pool because the weather was taking a turn for the worse, but the rain clouds made the canyon look more majestic. Hey, how's it going, guys? Sorry I haven't been vlogging in the past 2 days or so. We just got really busy at Bryce Canyon National Park, but now we're here at Zion. So today we arrived at Zion National Park. We're coming from Bryce Canyon National Park. Ever since we got to Bryce Canyon, we've been staying at hotels. It was already planned that we would stay at a hotel here in Zion, but for Bryce Canyon, it's going to be like 20 degrees at night. So that is why we opted out of camping, and then we decided to get a hotel at Bryce Canyon. But for today, for Zion, we got here at maybe like 11 a.m. As soon as you go through that park entrance, it's just amazing. We were able to drive through the tunnel, but I do have to say it took a very long time for us to even get to the tunnel because the rangers do close one side of the road. That way the incoming traffic could get through the tunnel safely. Actually, if you do have like a large RV or truck, or if the case may be a camper, you have to pay $15 in order to go through the tunnel. But if you're like in a vehicle like a sedan, a personal vehicle, you should be fine. But yeah, even though Zion National Park is very beautiful, I do have to say it's just very busy, and then it kind of kills the experience. Don't get me wrong, you should definitely visit this park, but once we got here, it's kind of like a bad experience just because it's very busy. Just like any national park, we attempted to visit the visitor center first thing, and I'm not even kidding, we were looking for parking spots at the visitor center inside the park, and then we couldn't find any. So we went outside the park and we tried looking for parking in Springdale, and we still couldn't find anything. Actually, I take that back. We did find 2 spots, but the parking fee was $30 for the day. So we were like, no, we're not gonna park here. So we parked our car here and we got our stuff ready. And then, so in Zion, the actual park has their own shuttle system. And then Springdale, which is a town outside of Zion, has their own shuttle system as well. The good thing is that both shuttles are absolutely free, which is great. So we took the Springdale shuttle all the way to the entrance of the park, and once you get to the entrance of the park by foot, you're able to cross the Virgin River into the park by foot. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be doing Angel's Landing in Zion National Park. The hike is about 4.3 miles and is also considered one of the most dangerous hikes here in the United States of America. We were very fortunate enough to score permits for the next day. But yeah, you do need a permit for this hike. So they offer 3 options. First option, as far as time, is you could start before 9 a.m. Second option, you could do 9 to 12 p.m., 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And third option, anytime after 12 p.m. So we scored the one for any time before 9 a.m. In our case, we have to take the shuttle. So we're gonna go park at the visitor center, and the shuttle started running in Zion at 7 a.m. At this time of the year. So we'll probably get there maybe like 7:30 and start the hike at that time. I was so excited that we were able to get permits for the next day. I did try getting the permits through the advanced lottery, but I did not have any luck. We started the hike and it was about 35 degrees, but the steep incline helped us keep warm. And I mean, it was very steep. This hike is only 4.3 miles, but the elevation gain is a little over 1,800 feet, which doesn't seem like much for a longer hike, but it does make a 4.3 mile hike very steep. Now it's time for the chains. This is where you need a permit to continue. If you don't have a permit for the hike, you can stay behind at Scouts Lookout. A lot of people say that this hike is very dangerous because of this section of the hike, but honestly, I didn't find it to be very dangerous or scary. As long as you're very careful and the conditions are great, I believe that anyone can do this hike. Here is the beginning of chains, and here is the very steep fall. We made it to the end of Angel's Landing. The 360 views of Zion made the steep incline and the chain section totally worth it. We took our time here to watch the sun illuminate the canyon and to relax. We went back down and we had lunch at the Zion Lodge. Then we did another hike. The hike that we would be doing has great views of the canyon too. You can actually drive your car to this trailhead, but parking is very limited. This trail is a canyon overlook trail and it is about a mile long. The views were amazing for just a 1 mile hike. This would be a great alternative if you're not able to get permits for Angel's Landing. And not too far from the trailhead is Checkerboard Mesa, and as the name suggests, it has a checkerboard pattern. Our last day at Zion was here and we hiked the iconic Narrows Trail. This hike is a bit different from your typical hike. For the Narrows, you are trekking through the Virgin River for as long as you desire. There is really no end to this trail, and the further you go, the less people there will be. It also helped that we rented wetsuits from one of many rental shops in Springdale. The wetsuit did its job for the most part. At this time of the year, the river is very cold, so they were definitely worth the $80. This was the perfect way to end our Utah Mighty 5 road trip, and we would start heading back home the next day. Along the way home, we made a quick stop at the Coral Pink Sand Dunes State Park, but the sand does look more orange than it does pink. Well, that concludes the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that this video inspires you to explore more.